Rollercoaster Tycoon's excitement rating is one of the most important factors in the game, as well as contributing to things such as your park value, how many new guests you attract, and being part of some scenario goals. A ride's excitement rating has a big part to play in how much guests will pay to ride an attraction, how much they enjoy it, and of course it's always nice for us, the player, to know we've built a great coaster by seeing its excitement rating. So how exactly is an excitement rating calculated? Or in other words, how can we make sure we get great excitement ratings time after time? First off, I need to send a massive hat tip the way of Marcel Voss. He has broken down how excitement rating is calculated quite brilliantly in a Reddit post from 2017. I've linked it in the description of this video. Ride design is critical and by far the biggest contributor to excitement rating. That is, for tracked rides. Static rides have a predetermined excitement rating that can only be altered on some rides by changing the settings, i.e. the number of rotations on a merry-go-round. To get better excitement rating on static rides, you'll need scenery. But with tracked rides, the excitement rating is very much in your hands. If you want a good excitement rating, try and think logically. Build a ride which you think would be fun to ride in real life, and avoid elements which may be uncomfortable for the rider, such as taking inversions or turns too quickly. That's because if you get very high positive G or negative G forces, or high lateral G forces, your excitement rating will take a hit. Usually, if your stats return ultra extreme intensity and low excitement, it's going to be down to those G forces, and that is almost certainly a result of taking turns and inversions at too high a speed. If you get this problem, a simple fix is to reduce the height of your first drop or your launch speed, or add some brakes to prevent the coaster from taking a turn too quickly. But during construction, when it comes to turns, keep in mind that the wider the turn, the quicker you can take it, and make sure to bank turns on sections of track where your coaster will be travelling quickly. You can take a medium-sized turn at a maximum of 62 miles an hour, 99 for those of us who play in kilometers per hour, without hurting your intensity, but that is increased to 101 miles an hour or 162 kilometers per hour if you bank the turn. Check out Marcel's Reddit guide for a breakdown of the maximum speeds at which you can take any turn or inversion without returning super high G-forces. So that's a negative way ride design can impact excitement, and more on that shortly. But what about the positives? First off, the length of your ride. I'll get to minimum length requirements shortly, but provided you have hit the minimum requirement, you can add to the excitement simply by making the ride longer. Again, think real life. A 1-minute coaster is fun and enjoyable, but it's even better if, after queuing for a long time, you get a longer ride. Just keep in mind the excitement boost compared to space and budget available, and the impact on turnover, especially if you don't have several block sections. Take Bumblebee, a looping coaster in the build menu. It gets 5.65 excitement without its scenery. Now, let's just make it a little longer. We get a little more excitement. Now, let's make it a little longer by adding a new section, rather than just a longer track. Even better excitement. Next, Airtime, which can boost excitement in a big way on some coasters, and not at all on others. It seems to me that common factors in rides that don't get excitement from airtime is that they have over-the-shoulder restraints. So, while the ride in theory gets airtime, the guests don't feel it as the restraints give them less movement than lap bar restraints do. But that's just my theory. Marcel's guide does list the rides which do and don't benefit from airtime excitement bonuses. So, what is airtime? Well, it's that feeling you get on a ride when G-forces pull you up vertically, making you feel weightless. So, airtime is literally time in the air when you float above your seat. It typically happens on bunny hops and when taking hills at high speed. See the airtime increase from 1.71 to 3.6 as I add some bunny hops, and then to 4.35 after I add a short but steep climb. Going from a steep climb to level is the best way to achieve airtime, and you'll see that compared to my extended Bumblebee with the closest track length, we've added a fair amount to our excitement here. In theory, you could achieve an indefinite amount of airtime and get some incredibly high excitement scores, but note how intensity and nausea also increase from the up and down nature of those bunny hops. But if you build a coaster with low nausea and want to add to its excitement rate, adding some bunny hops near the end can be a great way to achieve this. You also get an excitement bonus for extra drops. It's hard to define the exact bonus because the extra drops will add varying additional length, speed and airtime too. But take this basic looping coaster. Starting with the minimum 2 drops, we have 4.59 excitement. A small third drop takes us to 4.65. 5 drops and we hit 5.07, and at 9 we hit 5.58. After that, extra drops don't add any more to your excitement, but it does keep adding to your intensity. Inversions also make a big difference. Back to that looping coaster, here with 3 drops but no inversions. Now with an inversion. 2 inversions, 4 and 6. After 6 inversions you don't get any more excitement from inversions, but your intensity will be adding up. And of course there is interlocking track. We all love to do this with vertical loops, but also having track run close to station and narrowly above your ride can give great excitement boosts too. Underground track, or track covered by scenery to give an inside element, helps a lot too. And the more underground sections you have, the bigger your excitement bonus. Let's look at Black Panther from the looping coaster build menu, placed here in Evergreen Gardens. I've raised the land to create an underground section and excitement jumps from 7.01 to 7.1. Then I did the same again. And finally, with 7 underground elements. Finally on the design stage, synchronized stations. Synchronizing your ride with an adjacent one can add almost half a point to the excitement rating. Then, once you've nailed a great design, there are many factors which can increase excitement. Underground sections are a big one, but so are rides which go over water. Going close to path and other rides gives a boost, as of course does scenery. Which scenery? Well, that doesn't matter. You can get boosts for usually the first 50 pieces of any kind in close proximity to your ride. To demonstrate, let's start with another looping coaster, Exterminator. Without scenery, it has excitement of 6.62. Now let's add some scenery. 50 pieces gets it to 6.81. Now some water. Let's raise some land to create an underground section. And add some path over the tracks. Finally, let's have another ride pass close by. This is the biggest boost the ride can get, especially if you interact in different ways, such as going above or below track and through vertical loops. Synchronized rides achieve this best and most naturally. So, finally, and for a big boost, let's synchronize it with an adjacent station. And those are the factors which help you build an exciting coaster. But there are also some factors which can reduce your excitement. One you've probably come across in your own gameplay is ride intensity. In real life, an intense ride usually means good fun, probably because of the adrenaline we kick. But in real life, things like being exposed to excessive G-forces can be uncomfortable, like when you take a tight turn on a coaster and are bashed around in your seat. If that movement became too much, the ride would be less enjoyable. The same applies in Rollercoaster Tycoon. As soon as your ride intensity hits double figures, you start to see a reduction in your excitement. But don't think you can hit 10 intensity and take your excitement punishment and then have a free pass. No, because it's a sliding scale. The higher the intensity, the lower the excitement. After intensity, there is another thing which can impact your ride excitement, which may not be immediately obvious. Meet stat requirements, a term first used by Marcel Voss and since widely adopted by the online Rollercoaster Tycoon community. In every ride guide I create, I mention these requirements, and you can also find them in a really useful table posted to Reddit by Marcel Voss. I've dropped a link in the description of this video. How they work is simple. Your ride design must meet each of these requirements in order to gain its maximum stats. For every single requirement you miss, your stats are halved, which is why sometimes you might build what you think is a perfectly good coaster, only to find the stats come in very low. Just check, is it long enough and does it have enough drops? Many rides also have their own additional rules. Some, such as the flying coaster, must also have at least one inversion. While with other rides, you can remove the need to meet most stat requirements if you include an inversion, particularly helpful for a powered launch or reverse incline launched coaster. And while underground sections can help rides boost excitement, some rides require you not to go too crazy with this. Most transport rides need at least half of the track above ground, for example, and for go-karts only 25% of your ride can be below ground or covered by scenery. So if you want high excitement coasters time after time in Rollercoaster Tycoon Classic, make sure to pay attention to your design, and once you've built an exciting coaster, boost it further by adding scenery, underground or overwater elements, and interactions with pathways and other coasters.